So, what is the stock market? Is it this deep well of opportunity? Or is it a huge, dangerous ocean? You know, that question? It really defines the financial dreams and, honestly, the nightmares of millions. Let's dig in and find out. You'll often hear people say this, right? The stock market is a well so deep, it can quench the financial thirst of the entire nation. I mean, wow, that's an incredibly powerful thought, isn't it? This idea that there's just enough wealth out there for everyone's ambitions. But, and this is a big but, for every single one of those dreams of quenching your thirst, there's this terrifying nightmare of drowning. And look, this isn't just some dramatic metaphor. For some people, it becomes a devastating, tragic reality.
All right, so let's get into it. A well or an ocean? To really get a handle on this, to understand both sides of the coin, we've got to look at a very real and honestly, a very sobering story.
Okay, so I want you to meet Rohit. He was just 25 years old, from Rajkot. And he had this incredibly powerful dream, one that a lot of people have. Getting rich, and getting rich fast, using the stock market. So he was seeing all this hype on social media, right? You know the stuff, stories of people becoming millionaires overnight, and he took this absolutely enormous risk. He invested 60 lakh rupees. And this wasn't just his money, it was the money his father had saved up for his wedding. He truly believed he could multiply it in no time. But here's the thing about the market. It guarantees absolutely nothing. And Rohit, he lost it all. Every single rupee. Unable to face his family after a loss that catastrophic, he tragically took his own life. His story is it's a brutal reminder of the very real human cost of this kind of speculation. So what could have possibly pushed Rohit to make a decision like that? Well, images just like this one. A screenshot showing a 50 lakh profit. You've seen them, right? They're all over social media. These huge, life-changing numbers posted for everyone to see. It makes it look so easy, so attainable. But here comes the reality check. The hard data shows that a staggering 90%, let that sink in, 90% of retail traders, people just like Rohit, trying to make that quick buck, they end up losing their money. So that flashy screenshot, it's not the rule. It is the very, very rare exception. So why? Why do so many people fail? It really boils down to this one single core problem. We call it the lottery mindset. Yeah, so the 90% of people who lose money, they're all approaching the market as if it's, well, a lottery. They're not really investing. They're just gambling. They're chasing some lucky break, a hot tip, and they're totally ignoring the fundamental truth that this is a field that requires actual skill, real research, and a ton of patience. And you can spot the traits of this mindset a mile away. I mean, if you find yourself getting all hyped up by someone else's profit screenshot, if you're constantly hunting for hot tips, if you think this is some kind of magical money-making machine, or if you expect to get rich overnight while ignoring all the risks, then yeah, you're operating with that lottery mindset, and that is a direct path to joining that 90% club. Okay, so how do you protect yourself from falling into this trap? You have to start asking the right questions. The next time you see one of those huge profit screenshots, don't just get excited, get critical. Ask yourself, is this profit consistent? Because honestly, a single lucky trade means absolutely nothing in the long run. And this one is just as important. How much money was actually put on the line to make that profit? What was the risk involved? Look, a 50 lakh profit is incredible, for sure, but it's not so amazing if they had to risk, say, 5 cores to get it. Without that context, that profit screenshot isn't information, it's just marketing. Okay, so if we know the lottery mindset is a problem, what's the solution? Well, it all starts with completely reframing why we invest in the first place. The true purpose? It's to beat inflation. Here's a simple and, honestly, an unavoidable truth for all of us. Any money you have just sitting in a savings account is losing its value. Every single day. The price of everything, it just keeps going up. That silent, creeping loss of your money's power, that's inflation. And this right here is probably the most important mindset shift you can possibly make. The primary goal of investing isn't about getting rich quick. It's about making sure you don't get poor slowly by letting inflation just eat away at your savings. Think of it as a defensive move for your financial future, not a lottery ticket. Okay, that all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually start? especially without feeling totally overwhelmed by it all? Well, here's a super simple, practical first step for you. All right, for just a minute, forget about all the complicated charts and jargon. Just look around you right now. What brands, what products do you use every single day? Next, do a little research. Are those companies publicly listed on the stock market? Then do a really basic check on their fundamentals. Are they a profitable, stable business? Finally, just pick maybe 5 companies that seem strong and make your first small investment. That's it. That's literally your start. So why does such a simple approach actually work? Well, think about it like this. You can't learn how to swim just by reading a book about swimming, right? At some point, you have to actually get in the water. Investing is exactly the same. Theory is great, but the real learning, the stuff that sticks, happens when you have some practical experience. Because here's a little psychological trick. Where your money goes, your mind follows. The second you're invested, even with a tiny amount, your curiosity and your desire to learn will just skyrocket. Suddenly, the business news isn't boring anymore. It's about your money. That little investment becomes the ultimate motivation to learn more. All right, so you've taken that first step. You're in the water. Now what? Well, it's the one single ingredient that's going to determine your long-term success. It all, and I mean all of it, comes down to patience. And it is absolutely vital that you understand the difference between investing and trading. They are not the same thing. Investing is long-term. You're essentially buying a small piece of a business. Trading is short-term. You're just betting on which way the price is going to move. For anyone just starting out, the path is crystal clear. Start with investing. Trading is a high-stress, high-risk game that you should only even think about after you have a lot of experience under your belt. So let's wrap this up with some final critical advice for beginners. Number 1, start with investing, not trading. Seriously, understand that real trading requires at least 6 to 12 months of dedicated, hardcore learning. Patience is completely non-negotiable. If you don't have it, this field is just not for you. And maybe the most important rule of all, never, ever risk more money than you are willing to completely lose. So here we are, right back where we started. The market is an ocean. It's filled with incredible opportunity, yes, but also a ton of danger. It's not about just jumping in and hoping for the best. It's about respecting the water, learning the strokes, and having the patience to navigate it safely. The opportunity is absolutely there. The only question left is, are you willing to put in the work to learn how to